Big subject is a taboo subject. And it has to do with taboo. And that's the subject of writing, what I would guess say writing, in my case.
Why taboo?
Writing fiction, because, well, I'll start back at the beginning. I became interested in so-called writing, and it was fiction because I had no real inclination about what else to write when I was about ninth grade. The reason I would write then was to give relief to powerful and often angry feelings. If there was a person that I couldn't abide, I had no way to make that disdain real other than writing about it, since I was not the type of person who could walk up and insult somebody and pick a fight. So I did it through the words. And these pieces of writing never went anywhere except to my desk. But I began to, as years passed, I began to realize that there really was something to that. The reason that a person does write the kind of stuff I was reading and learning to write is because it's a secret. It's a secret language. It's a way of telling the truth in a situation where perhaps that truth, and more likely than not, the truth is taboo. I think of the books like, I mean, I don't know so much about In Our Time. The miracle of those as truth-telling stories is that it was not so clear to everybody what the truth was that was being told. But they were stories about secrets. I mean, Big Two-Hearted River, parts 1 and 2. And it's full of a major secret, and if that secret were made clear to the publishing public, I don't think that the stories would have been acceptable. Okay. The poets, of course, I was reading too, but then I was reading Virginia Woolf later. It seemed to me more and more obvious that the point of this kind of work was to, not to entertain, for God's sake, but it was to get at truths that were being denied or oppressed or suppressed or destroyed by the culture at large. And these are truths that life itself depended on. Without those truths, there would be no... the culture couldn't breathe. People would go mad with poverty, cultural, intellectual, emotional poverty. Unless they were lucky enough to be mountain climbers or to be world explorers. But kind of truth. I was asked once I had been teaching for several years, and I was given this plug, or not plug, but this plum.
Do you mind if it's just paper?
What?
Do you mind if it's just paper?
Oh, no, yeah. And so the plum was a semester off, or part of a course relief, and attendance at a seminar at the Graduate Center in CUNY, and the director of the seminar offered us a lunch, and at the lunch, before the thing began, he said, "Oh, I understand you're a writer." And I said, "Yeah." He asked what I wrote about, and I said, "Oh, well, I write about the truth." And he said, "Oh, well, the truth about what?" And I said, "Well, the truth about existence and what it's like to be inside existence." And the additional difficulty there is that it seems to me that has to be done in a way, this experience has to be told in a way, the truth of it has to be told in a way that's also true. So that a writer is first telling truths, the truth about what it's like to be inside of experience, that is inside life, and has to do it in a way that itself does not deceive, distort, or lie. So, any one becomes trapped by genre, one becomes trapped by plot, one becomes trapped by the requirements of character and action and setting. None of these things are the reason for a person who's a real writer to write. The only reason for a real writer to write is to tell the truth in a true way about what it's like to be inside of existence. Anytime something is layered onto a project in writing, then the writing is being compromised and smothered. So there you have, for example, Gertrude Stein. She made the effort to have nothing applied from above. It was all to be coming from the words. And that's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about, but in somewhat more crude terms, because now, as I grew older, it became clear to me, this began certainly, I think it began, I argue it began in 1947, but it certainly has gained fast, just epidemic movement since the middle 80s, and it's even more galloping from the early 90s through the late 90s, and now it's almost upon us. A great, thick, deep blanket been thrown over the population, blinding them, suffocating them, dumbing them down, making them unable to hear or see. And this is because, I would be willing to say that it's because of a failure in writers and writing, is they stopped seeing their work as the telling of the truth. And they probably were already being influenced by the cultural change, the change toward a manipulative, oppressive, big brother-like, culturally totalitarian and simplifying culture. But to whatever extent they were caused, I suppose all of us are to blame for its being allowed to happen to some degree. But the writers have now given up. They're not writers at all. I don't know of any writers. I know a few